Okay, guys, so we're in lesson 8.3. Now we're going to do 30, 60, 90 triangles. So in a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the hypotenuse is twice as long as the shortest leg, and the middle leg is the square root of 3 as long as the shortest leg. So the 30, 60, 90 picture, there are 3. Just depends on where the x is. If the x is here, then this is 2x. And this is x times the square root of 3. If the x is here, then this is 1/2 x, and this is 1/2 x times the square root of 3. Okay? And then finally, if the x is here, this is 1/3 x times the square root of 3. And this is 2/3 x times the square root of 3. So we've got 3 different pictures going on, and it just depends on where the x is. So it depends on where the whole number is. So again, the most common one is when the x is on the short side, the whole number is on the short side, then you double square root of 3 for the other side. So let's look at that. It says find the value of x and y. Well, our base, our short leg, is x. That's good. So to double it, we're going to get the hypotenuse just by doubling it. So x is equal to 10. And then for the middle side, we're just going to use the square root of 3. But what number goes there? Well, again, our base was 5. So that's good. That's what we want. Now, what do we do when our base isn't 5? Well, there's going to be a whole number in there somewhere. We just have to figure out where it is. Okay? And so, let's talk about it. It seems as if our base is the 1/3 x square root of 3. So the x is actually going to be on the middle side. Well, if this is 1/3 of x, well, what's 7's 1/3 of what? Well, 21. So then what do I do to get y? Well, let's go back up here. What did I do every time? From short to long, I just doubled it. So how do I double 7 times the square root of 3? Well, it's 14 times the square root of 3. And we can use our calculator to check and make sure that that's longer than 21, because that's what we want. (14 times the square root of 3) is 24.24. So we're good. So go ahead and try this one. Okay, so we have 1/2. To get to the hypotenuse, we have to double it. That's 1. And then to get to the middle leg, we have to add square root of 3. So 1/2 times square root of 3. We're good. And we're happy with that. And again, these first 3 covered all of our bases. What do we do when our first number is a whole number? Well, we just double it to get the other whole number. And we put it times square root of 3 to get that number. And what do we do when it's not a whole number? Well, we still double it, but then we triple it to get the middle leg. And we drop the square root of 3. So let's look at the second way this can happen. If we have the hypotenuse. If the hypotenuse is a whole number, then the short leg is also going to be a whole number. Well, if we double to find the hypotenuse originally, how do I work backwards? I take half. So if this is 7 and this is 14, then we know that this one's going to have the square root of 3. What number goes there? Well, it can't be bigger than the hypotenuse, so it has to be 7. Now, here we're in trouble. The hypotenuse isn't a whole number. Oh my gosh. We still divide it in half the same way. 4 times the square root of 3. So I have 8 times the square root of 3 and 4 times the square root of 3. Let's go back and look at our example. If it's 8 square root of 3 and 4 square root of 3, then this is supposed to be x. Well, 1/3 of x is 4. So what's 4 times 3? Well, that's 12. So again, you know, you're dividing and then multiplying, and it's not that difficult. Oh, my hypotenuse is a whole number. Yes. So in order to back up from 24, how do I find x? Well, divide in half. How do I find y? Multiply by the square root of 3. So again, it's just one of those things where you have to learn the pattern, okay? And that's what this was working on. If the hypotenuse is a whole number, then you divide by 2 to find the short leg, and you multiply by the square root of 3 to find the middle leg. If the hypotenuse is a radical, you divide by 2 to find the short leg, you multiply by 3 and drop the radical to find the middle leg. Now, if we have the long leg, we're looking for a radical. That's what we want. So 4 times the square root of 3. Perfect. So I'm going to go to the short leg first. And all I got to do to get to the short leg is, well, let's look back at our original relationship there. 4 square root of 3. Well, to get the short leg, I just want x. Well, what's x in this one? X is 4. How do I find y? Hopefully what you just said is double it. Y is 8. Changes to 21. Make it easier on ourselves. Now our middle leg's not a radical. Oh no. Well, that's okay, because we've got a thing to help us out. If our middle leg's not a radical, we take 1/3 of x times the square root of 3. Well, what's 1/3 of our number? 7. And then what do we do to go from the short to the hypotenuse? We double it. 14 square root of 3. Let's just make this 12. Our middle leg is not a radical. Oh no. Well, that's okay. We have a rule. 1/3 of that. What's 1/3 of 12? 4. How do I get from here to the hypotenuse? Double it. 8. Again, I can't, just like when we did 45, 45, 90, you just got to learn the rule. Okay? So, just like we learned about with the 45, 45, 90, and you just review, in the 45, 45, 90, we wanted the hypotenuse to have a radical. If it didn't, we had to divide by 2. Well, in a 30, 60, 90, we want the middle leg to have a radical, so that we can get our constant and then double it for the hypotenuse. If the middle leg has a radical, then that's good. That's what we want. We take half of it, we double it to find the hypotenuse. If it doesn't have a radical, then we take 1/3 of it and put the square root of 3, and then we double it and leave the square root of 3. And so it's one of those things where you just have to practice it to get used to the pattern of it all. So I've given you a couple things to work on here. I've given you a worksheet with special right triangles. I'm going to change some of the numbers so that they're all either if it's a 60, so across from a 60, it's going to be divisible by 3 is my goal. So change this one to 9. So it'll be divisible by 3. This 8 is fine because you're not dividing that one by 3. The 24 is fine. 27 is fine. This 24 is fine. This 6 is fine. Make sure you check those 6 with me before you go on to the reverse. 22 there is fine. 12 is fine. 14 is fine. I'm going to change this to 15. 27 is fine. You're going to get a decimal then for number 10. And then we're going to change this to 6. Again, I'm just trying to help you out. The ones across from 60, I'm going to try to make them divisible by 3. To kind of help you out, get used to the pattern. Once you're done with this and you check it off and you're good, I want you to go ahead and do this one. It's a review of 45, 45, 90 and 30, 60, 90. So once you guys get that one done, you should be good to go. This should be 6 square root of 3. This should be 2 square root of 3. And I think that's the only correction I have to make. Yep. 2 square root of 3 and 6 square root of 3. The rest of these, let's see. This should be 5 square root of 2. And we'll just make this one 8. I don't really care about the square root of 6. And then I put in the notes about if you wanted to get some extra credit, here's another packet on 30, 60, 90 and 45, 45, 90. And it's also showing you again the relationships and how they work so that you guys can understand how they work. Okay? So just another picture form of how the relationships work. Some extra practice on those. And if you continue on with this packet, yeah, there's lots of good practice in there on 30, 60, and 45, 45, 90. Yep. Lots of good practice in there indeed. So certainly you can do all of this, and it'll help you with the notes from this section, which I have now moved to the back here. So again, pause, rewind, look through the notes, do what you need to do. Make sure you take a look at these pictures from both of your notes. They should help you understand the pattern and where to move things correctly. See if you have any questions, but definitely this is just one thing where you just have to practice the pattern until you get it, to be automatic. Okay? All right, guys. Appreciate it, and let me know if I can help.